Imagine, a podcast series by Imagine Theatre.
Hello again, I'm Martin Ballard and welcome to episode 28 of this podcast series from Imagine Theatre, one of the biggest producers of pantomime and children's theatre here in the UK.
For more information, go to their website at www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.
Now, I tell you what, the year is absolutely racing by, isn't it? We're almost halfway through 2022. Before we begin, a quick reminder that if you've missed any of the previous episodes from this year or from 2021 with creatives, actors and behind-the-scenes tours of Imagine Theatre, you can catch up with each and every one of them because they are all still available. And don't forget, more importantly, to subscribe to the series so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. Now, in episode 27, we caught up with the managing director, Steve Bowden, and his wife, Sarah, the company's business and marketing director, to mark the 13th anniversary of them acquiring the company. Well, this time, I've been joined by associate producer and head of celebrity casting, Laura Taylor. How are you, Laura?
I'm really well. How are you, Martin? Lovely
I'm
to
very
be chatting again.
I'm very well. It's great to catch up with you. Although, to be fair, we saw each other recently, I think for the first time in at least 18 months, what was a spectacular event for the Pantomime Awards 2022. What a great night.
It was fabulous, wasn't it? I mean, it was so nice to catch up with you, but it was just so good to have the industry as a whole back in a room together for the first time in what must have been 3 years. And I think it felt even more special this year because we've all survived and come out the other side of that horrendous time and season last year. So it was such a good evening, and I thought it was so well organised, and I had a great time.
You are one of the trustees of the UK Pantomime Association, which is a newly formed organisation which came out of COVID, one of the real bonuses of the sort of COVID period, if you like. Just explain a little bit about your role.
Yeah, so it's a charity that was set up in 2021, and the award ceremony is just one part of what the association want to do for the genre, and that's why I wanted to be involved, because it's not just about the award ceremony, and I want to make it very clear that I have nothing to do with the judging process of the awards. Obviously, there would be a huge conflict of interest there, so I don't get involved in that side of it at all. What I'm there to do is just help and support and champion the genre. I am a massive ambassador for the genre, as you know. I'm so passionate about it. So when they approached me, I really wanted to get involved, and I have to say it's a fantastic group of people with amazing skills and experience and knowledge in all different aspects of the genre. And yeah, you know, our first event was the awards and it went spectacularly well, and I was really proud to be even a small part of that. But that's just one thing, and moving forward we're looking at putting some kind of hub together where people can visit and find out the traditions and the history and the practices and the culture of the genre. And we're looking at maybe holding some kind of mid-year event where people can get together and hold workshops and talks. And so I think it's a great thing to be involved with. And as I said, a great team of people. Yeah, I've only been involved for maybe 6 months now, but was so proud of what they achieved at the awards event. And I think we've had nothing but positive feedback. I think everyone felt that it was a really well organised event. It's great to celebrate it. We don't get celebrated enough. And this is what I always say. The Palladium gets nominated for the Olivier Awards, but pantomime doesn't get celebrated in any other way, and it should. It really should, because it is the lifeblood of theatre.
I totally agree. Absolutely agree with you. I mean, lots of worthy nominations, many deserved winners. It was great to see Imagine getting 8 nominations, 2 awards on the night, a special recognition award to Paul Morse and Justin Fletcher for their hilarious balloon ballet at the Hexagon in Reading, but also to Tam Ryan, who was the comic in Wolverhampton in Cinderella last year. Absolutely fantastic, not just for the winners, but for all the nominees.
It was great, and I was so pleased that Tam won, and Justin and Paul. But Tam I've worked with for many, many years before, and he'd taken a little break out of pantomime because he'd played the lead in Elf, the musical, for the last few years. And it was just the strangest thing last year. We were looking for a comic for Wolverhampton, and I just thought, I wonder if Tam is available this year. And I reached out to him and he said, Laura, you couldn't have contacted me at a more apt time because I've just got my dates for Elf, and actually I finish a bit earlier this year and I'll be available for Panto. And I was like, brilliant. So it all kind of fell into place, and he did do an absolutely sterling job in Wolverhampton. So to see him win the award was great. I was so pleased for him. And Justin and Paul, for those that have never seen their balloon ballet, I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen this routine performed, but theirs absolutely is a masterclass. It is just the funniest routine you'll ever see. So absolutely rightly deserved for them. So I'm really glad that Paul was there to collect it too. So yeah, it was a really, really lovely evening to see lots of friends, and to win some awards made it even more special.
Yeah, and I think one of the nice things about it as well is that there are certain things that don't fit into any regular categories. So to have those special recognition awards as well was a fabulous idea. And I think it was really nice that one of them went to what is a pretty much staple set piece from Panto. That balloon ballet has such a history to it, and I think the association's plan really is to move Panto forward while still, remembering the importance of the past.
And that's exactly what pantomime is. It's a weird fusion of current times and the history of it. And what it proves is something like the balloon ballet. I don't know how old that routine is, but it's very old. It is still as funny now as it probably was back in the day when it was created. And it goes to show that some comedy, especially the kind of slapstick comedy, is just always funny. Generation after generation after generation just find that stuff funny. And it is so important that modern day pantomime keeps those elements in, and the historical routines, but at the same time pad around that with the topical references and the up-to-date pop songs and current casting. And that's what keeps pantomime alive, and that's why it's evolved, and that's why it's still as popular now as it always has been, because it does evolve but keeps the traditions. I think it's such a weird, unique art form, but that's why I love it.
Now let's talk about your roles, because associate producer and head of celebrity casting are two specific areas. Just explain what the two roles are.
Okay, so associate producing. So I have a portfolio of venues that I oversee. I think I've got 8 this year. So quite a lot of work to do.
Good luck.
But no, thanks. So I basically, the easiest way to explain it is I head up those 8 venues. So I'm the person in the middle of everything. So I oversee all aspects and all departments, and I liaise with everyone and communicate with every department to bring the whole show together. So I'm kind of the main point of contact for most people, and I have an influence on casting and scripting and costumes and marketing. But there are other departments that go off and do it. I kind of just oversee it all and bring it all together. But the head of celebrity casting is my key area within Imagine, and I look after that for the entire Imagine portfolio. So yeah, so that is what I am very, very busy doing now. And I love it as much as I hate it, if I'm honest, because you have some days where everybody comes back and agrees and accepts, and you get really excited because it's falling into place, and another day nobody says yes and you get really frustrated. But I'm making great progress. I can't say anything at the moment, but we've got some really exciting people in the pipeline, so it's going all right.
So we're almost halfway through the year. In terms of the first 6 months, I guess that celebrity casting is one of the most important things early on, because you can't really put a show together in terms of the rest of the casting and so on until you've got those celebrities in place. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, look, I have to be clear, not all of our shows have celebrity casting, but the ones that do, it kind of it stalls the process, and that's why it can be quite frustrating, because you have to start the process with your poster casting, purely because you don't know who you're going to get. So therefore you need to leave all of the roles open, because you don't know who you're going to get, what character they're going to play. So until you've got those key people in place, everything else has to kind of be put on the back burner, which is why that's from a production point of view, that's why it's so important to try and get it done as early as you can. But from the publicity and marketing and ticket sales point of view, obviously the earlier you can announce your names, the best chance you've got of selling more tickets and engaging with the audience. So it's such a key part to the whole process, and so many other decisions rely on that. So that's why I try and get it done as early as I can.
And like so many other things, when it comes to pantomime production, you've probably got some of those casting ideas in your head, or even in early discussions before the previous season's ended.
Absolutely. I mean, we always say this is probably a 14 to 16 month process. And when people say, you work for a pantomime company, what do you do for the rest of the year? Always makes me laugh, because it really is an all year round process. And as you say, we start before last year's even open. So we start putting rough schedules together where what title's going to which venue, key casting. There are obviously some regulars that, you want to keep in your portfolio every year. So you try and work out where they're going. And also we try, not last year because of COVID, but in a normal year, we travel round, see other people's shows, see other people maybe making their panto debut, see how they work out. So it's just a constant, you just need ideas for left, right and centre. And some people say, how do you start? Do agents give you names? Do you pick names? And it's all of those things. So I'd like to be quite exciting. I always try and find people that might not have done panto before.
And you've got to be aware as well of what's current on television, on social media, and all those other areas where you may be able to unearth a gem. Somebody perhaps never done panto before, but he's doing something that's really big in terms of television or wherever, and then you've actually caught something that nobody else has. That's
exactly it. I remember somebody saying to me once, how do you manage to watch every TV show on every channel all of the time? And I said, I don't. Obviously, I don't have time to do that. But what I do, I just keep my ear to the ground. I find I socialise quite a lot, and I just listen to who people are talking about, or what TV shows they're talking about, or what films they're talking about. And then these people are in the general public psyche. And I that's how I start to compile my lists. And as I say, there's always new people that come about every year. I'm not always successful in getting new people. It's really, really difficult. But I like to at least try every year.
And that adds to the topicality as well, which you mentioned before. Now, in terms of the producer role, again, we're sort of halfway through the year now. Imagine has a much bigger portfolio of venues this year than ever before. So how challenging has the first 6 months been?
I have to be absolutely honest, it's nowhere near as challenging as it was last year. It feels easier, and the reason being is because we've got our normal lead time back. I think people have forgotten at this point last year, theatres were closed and we didn't know when they were going to be reopening. And we only found out in July that theatres were reopening. So we had, as I explained just a second ago, it's normally a 14 to 16 month process. We kind of had 5 months last year to pull it all together. Whereas this year we've got our normal lead time back again. So it feels easier, even though we've got more venues, which is great. And we're so excited, and it's great to be growing all the time and working with new venues and new teams. It just feels normal again. And it feels like we've got enough time to pull it all together and put on great shows again.
I assume
which
as
is
well
a luxury.
You've had meetings, which is completely different to last year, face-to-face meetings with venues, with creatives and so on in that sort of production process.
Yeah, I mean, we worked with, for example, Venue Cymru in Llandudno was one of our new venues last year. We worked with their team and had meetings, I think, for nearly 18 months and had never met each other, which is just unheard. And we went through, it was quite a traumatic time, and it wasn't a normal season, and we were making all these big decisions, and we formed a great bond with them and a great working relationship, but we'd done it all via video and Zoom. And when we eventually went up for the publicity day, which was right at the end of the year, I think it was October, it was so nice to meet people in the flesh and realise that we all exist from the waist down. So this year it's lovely because the venues that we've taken on this year, we've already done a lot of site visits and met the team in person. And listen, there's a lot to be said for technology and video meetings, but that you can't beat being in the same room as people. So being able to do that again is great.
So you'll have had meetings, you'll have discussed maybe the brief of what sort of panto that venue is looking for. That will then have been conveyed to script writers. You'd have had meetings, with the sets, costumes and so on, which is all a busy period, isn't it, as we get through the year?
It is, and Imagine don't make it easy for themselves, but this is how our whole ethos is. We start from a blank canvas every year. We don't pick productions up from one venue and plonk them somewhere else in another venue. We try and start from scratch, and we liaise with each individual venue and create shows that feel special to them. Because every theatre is different, every audience is different, every local community is different. So that's what we spend the first part of the year doing, talking to the theatres. What do they want from their pantomime? What's important to them? What do they want it to feel like? And we've done all of that now, and it starts to seep through every decision that's made on the production, from who writes it to the song choices, the casting, and we're sort of halfway through that process now.
And again, there'll be deadlines throughout the year. I mean, people who come and see a panto might think it gets a little bit more frenetic the closer you get to November, December. But as you said earlier, you've got deadlines to meet all the way through the years. You'll want your cast in place, by a certain date for all the reasons you gave earlier. So I guess the pressure is there for 12 months or so.
It is. I think and a big shout out to our marketing department, because I think marketing seem to have the strictest deadlines throughout the year, because the theatres will have their brochure deadlines and they want to announce their casting in those brochures, which means you need to have cast people and got them photographed ready to get in the brochure page. So the marketing department are constantly working to strict, important deadlines all year through. Obviously the production teams have their deadlines as well, but they need everything else to be put in place before they can go off and do what they want to do. But I think for marketing, they probably have the most pressure on them year round.
In terms of celebrity casting, do you have a specific date in mind when you want that resolved so that you can move forward?
No, always as soon as possible, as early as possible. I mean, you don't really want to go much later than the summer. But, sometimes, as I said, it doesn't fall into place that easily. So sometimes it does creep into a bit later in the year. But I'm hoping everything will be done and dusted by June. We'll see.
So the next 6 months, then, how does that pan out for you? Do you spend more time going out to the venues, involved in meetings there? What's the plan for the 6 months run up, if you like, to the opening night?
So, as I said, celebrity casting is the key thing, and the key casting and all the other venues. Once that's in place, we spend the rest of the year getting all of the supporting cast in place. We start putting artwork and posters together. We've then got all of the scripts coming together, all the song choices, wardrobe, getting all the measurements in, starting to, fit and make costumes. So it's just continual process. And then by autumn time, most of that is in place. We start holding press launches, going out to the venues, meeting the casts. We have production meetings with the technical teams, so they can see what set they're getting and what costumes. And then September time onwards is just a blur. That's when it is just so full on but that's the real critical time, obviously, pulling it all together. But there's always lots going on and lots to do.
And the foundation of any show, bringing all of the elements you've mentioned together, is the script. And you said you've got 8 that you're associate producing. That means you could possibly even have 8 totally different script writers to work with. How hands-on are you there?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I said. Every show is completely different. So they are 8 completely separate shows, even though a couple of them might have the same title. That's the only similarity. They'll have different scripts, they'll have different casts, obviously, different styles, different songs. So we have our kind of pool of script writers, but again, that's not locked in. We will liaise with the venue and say, what kind of style of script do you want? We try where we can to find people that might have local experience, because we like to get local references in there, again making it more bespoke to that particular venue and audience. So we're working with a team of people all the time, and that's what keeps it exciting as well.
And when you get those scripts, you'll get them in various drafts. Do you see them early on and give immediate feedback?
I do. So we'll get a first draft where just the key team will have a look through any glaringly obvious mistakes or content that we don't want in there. And then we move to another draft. We normally share it with the venue so they get input. And obviously the key cast members. So if, the comic obviously and the dame normally have quite a bit of input into routines and things. And then we move to the final draft where all song choices are signed off. And then that obviously gets shared to the wider team. So arrangers can go off and arrange the songs, and comics can go off and start learning routines and stuff like that. So yeah, different stages to it.
And for you, you probably know each and every show that you produce better than anybody by the time it actually opens. What's it like to go and watch it? Because, performers don't necessarily like to go and see a show that they've been in. Directors, when they're watching their own show, will be making notes all the way through. Do you still manage to enjoy it?
Oh, God, that is the best part of the job, because it's like being a chef is probably the best analogy I can give you. So we pick all of the ingredients and we put it all into the kitchen, but we're never quite sure what it's going to taste like, because you just don't know how all of those personalities and aspects and factors are all going to work together. And we then put it in the hands of the directors and the company managers and our team on the ground. So it's quite exciting, because we then turn up and see the finished product, and although we've got a really good idea on what it's going to be, there's always a few surprises in there, and normally pleasant surprises, which is good. So I love going to see the shows, because it's the final product. It's the fruits of your labour that you've been working on all year round. And the best thing is to see the audience reaction, because they've been, it's like it's been our babies, it's been our secret for a year, and now it's out there for the world to see. And to see all the families coming along and just having the best time, that makes it all worth it. It reminds you that's why we do what we do.
It's interesting you say that, because a lot of people say that, when you first go and see Panto as a child, your eyes are wide open and you're in awe of what's going on. That might start to wane a little bit until you're a parent, and then when you go, you actually spend as much time watching your own kids' reaction as you do the show, likewise with grandparents as well. You've got a family. Do you find yourself gauging reaction from your own family? Do they give you feedback?
Oh, absolutely. So I've got a daughter. She's now 9. She went to her first pantomime press night when she was 6 weeks old. And I've lost count on how many pantos she's seen. So listen, she's slightly unique. I don't think many children have had as much panto experience as she has. But absolutely does she influence things. And I think it's good that I've got my own family, because you see it from a child's point of view as well. So I know what she's watching on TV. I know what interests her. And it obviously changes the older she gets. But you can kind of get an indication of what the younger members of the audience want and need. And remember that there are lots of young people in the audience. You can't make things too scary, or too adult. We wouldn't do that anyway. We're very much a family entertainment producer. But all those things to consider as well. So having your own child absolutely helps you keep the gauge of all of that. And to see her reaction, although she is my biggest critic and will turn around and go, "Oh mummy, I think that scene should have ended like that." And most of the time she's right as well, which is a bit annoying. But no, there's nothing better than seeing her reaction to it all.
I think kids' reaction is the most important, isn't it? Because obviously, primarily it's a family form of entertainment, but it is, and we've said this many, many times before, the first opportunity many children will have to go to see live theatre. So for that reason, it has to be relevant for them. In terms of the slapstick, that's absolutely right up their street. The song choice is important. The script and the length of the show is important as well for them, because if they can't tolerate it, adults won't, will they?
That's absolutely it. And that's exactly right. We bear all of those things in mind when we're putting the show together. There's no point in making it an epic 3.5 hour long show, because parents are going to miss half of it because they'll be taking children out for loo breaks. And it's remembering all of those things, which again makes it so unique, because there aren't many pieces of theatre where you have to try and entertain a 3 to 4 year old right up to a 94-year-old. And it's finding that right balance. That's when you get your perfect panto, when the grandparents come out having heartily laughed along and thoroughly enjoyed themselves as much as the grandchildren. And that's what you need to try and achieve.
Now, we seem to be in a much better place, although the only predictable thing about the whole COVID situation is its unpredictability. However, compared to last year, you've already said things have moved on more smoothly. You've been able to have face-to-face meetings, visit venues and so on. Do we feel that this panto season ahead of us, and I'm touching wood when I say this, is going to be back how it was before COVID, or are we still going to be taking certain precautions, do you think?
I mean, look, it'd be a little bit remiss of us to just think we're going to spring back to normal and nothing's going to go wrong. The difficulty is it's completely out of our hands. We just don't know. All we can do is just soldier on, be thankful that we're still here, still doing what we love. As I said, the process feels easier this year because we've got our normal lead times back. So that's made it all seem better already. We just have to keep our fingers crossed that we don't get another variant, that rears its ugly head in winter time. I don't think it will come to that, but I think if the last 2 years has taught us anything is to expect the unexpected. So, a lot of what we learned last year, especially hygiene, hand sanitizers everywhere, all of those things, we will keep some of that because even in a normal panto season before COVID, you'd always get panto flu or colds going around. And the last thing you want is your cast members getting sick and having to go off. So I think we'll take a lot of that on board. All we can do is just play it by ear, see how things evolve. And you know what? There's other factors that we need to consider this year. If the pandemic wasn't bad enough, we've got cost of living crisis and everything else. So it's just being aware of all of those things and just trying to pitch everything right that we still get lots of lovely audiences coming to see our shows.
Well, I have to say, finally, and more optimistically, the reaction that audiences gave at the return of Panto last Christmas really did sort of inspire us to go on and to move forward after what had been a really tricky time. And there was nothing better, was there, than seeing audiences thoroughly enjoying Imagine shows again.
That's right. And I would say that if pantomime has ever been needed at a time, the time is now. The brilliant thing about pantomime is it's just light-hearted escapism, fun that the whole family can come to. And I think that's what people need. I don't think people want to go to the cinema or to the theatre now and watch really heavy, depressing stuff. The world's depressing enough. So you just want 2.5 hours of pure hilarity and just good old-fashioned fun. And that is absolutely what Panto provides. And purely for that reason, I think we're going to have really strong attendance this year.
Well, I'm really excited about the return of Panto again this Christmas. I know you are as well, Laura.
Yeah.
You're in a very good place at the moment. Touch wood, the rest of the year continues in the same way. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Always a pleasure, Martin. It's lovely chatting to you.
And it's always lovely chatting to you too, but I'm afraid we've run out of time. That's about it for now. Don't forget to subscribe to the series to catch up with any episodes you've missed so far and to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. And make sure you join me next time when I'll be going behind the scenes with Imagine's wardrobe team. I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of Just Imagine, the podcast series from Imagine Theatre. And you can find out more by going to www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.